So today we begin with not one, but two reports regarding a young Timberwolf who in his second year is not improving. We're going to break down both reports and talk about what President Tim Connelly might do to improve the Timberwolves for the second half of the season. Welcome back to the Timberwolves Digest. As always, North America, I'm Dave Dabbah, and I bring you daily Minnesota Timberwolves news, trade reports, trade rumors, and, of course, a whole lot of commentary. Hey, I want to thank everybody out there for all of your comments. At some point, we will do some sort of mailbag show, so stay tuned for that. Also, if you are new to the show, please go ahead and subscribe. Now, you all know I like to ask a question at the start of every single podcast, and today's question is, should the Minnesota Timberwolves actually trade or keep Rob Dillingham? I want to know what your thoughts and opinions are on the topic. Now, we have two reports tonight, one from ESPN and another one from Sports Illustrated, which was actually an interview with assistant coach Micah Nori. We're going to get into both of those reports in just a little bit. Now, I've given a lot of thought to this when it comes to Rob Dillingham at this point, and there are a couple issues that we do need to address. First one, of course, is playing time. He's basically getting no real playing time, and the second issue, which is an absolutely huge issue at this point, is he's having trouble shooting just 33% on two-point attempts, worst among players with at least 100 attempts so far this season. In other words, he is the worst shooter in the NBA when it comes to two-point attempts so far this season. So moving on to an interview that Micah Nori just gave to Sports Illustrated. Rob's still very, very young. He gave us two verys. As we know, Nori said, being around this for as long as I have and talking with people, a lot of times point guards find it very difficult to play in the NBA, especially at a young age, and especially a guy who did just 1 year in college. Most people say that it takes 3 years minimum in the NBA to get a good feel of playing the point guard position. That right there was coming from assistant coach Micah Nori. So I've got more coming from that Sports Illustrated article with Micah Nori, plus an ESPN article which talks in great detail about Rob Dillingham. We'll get into that in just a little bit, but if Tim trades Rob, who should he trade Rob for? I've given you a couple realistic examples. Kobe White, we've talked a lot about. Jose Alvarado, from a salary cap perspective, is a perfect fit. So is Chris Dunn and Trey Jones. I would love to know, who do you think Tim Connelly would ultimately pull the trigger on if he were to trade Rob Dillingham? But before we dive into today's Timberwolves news, this video is brought to you by Kalshi. Download Kalshi by using the link below and enter code DIGESTNBA, and you'll get $20 when you trade your first 100. Kalshi is the largest prediction market in the U.S. On the platform, you can trade yes or no on real-time events like sports, elections, news, and pretty much anything. And whether you're in California or Texas or anywhere else in the country, Kalshi is now available in all 50 states for sports fans. Trade on game outcomes, playoff chances, or player performances, all on a regulated market where you can cash out at any time. Personally, I see real value in the Timberwolves winning 55-plus games. Remember, they won 56 games last season. So look, Kalshi is generally a smarter way to use your sports or news knowledge. And of course, you can close positions whenever you want. Download Kalshi with the link in the description. Don't forget to use code DIGESTNBA to get your $20 bonus. Once again, I want to thank Kalshi for sponsoring today's video. So now shifting focuses to an ESPN report written by Kevin Pelton. He says how the Timberwolves and the rest of the NBA value Dillingham could be one of the more interesting questions before the deadline. Minnesota believed enough in Dillingham to trade a precious 2031 first-round pick as well as a 2030 swap with the San Antonio Spurs team likely to be contending to draft a guard at number 8 in the 2024 NBA draft. Now, we covered a little bit earlier that, quite frankly, Rob's not getting a lot of playing time, and there's a reason for that, and that reason is a pretty simple one. This Minnesota Timberwolves team is not the Washington Wizards. This team cannot afford to actually play Rob 30 minutes a game right now because it wants to contend for a title, which of course leaves the Timberwolves and Rob in a precarious position. Just taking a look at Rob's contract and then what he's actually been doing to actually earn that money to this point. And certainly, once again, a lot of this is based on having enough playing time to actually experience the NBA at the level he needs to experience it at to ultimately grow. And for whatever reason, for a player like Rob in this particular case, things don't seem to necessarily be panning out for Rob with the Minnesota Timberwolves at this point. Back to our ESPN article that Kevin Pelton penned. 19 months later, Dillingham has yet to consistently crack Coach Chris Finch's rotation, and his production has trended in the wrong way this season. Dillingham is shooting just 33% on two-point attempts, which of course is worst among players with at least 100 attempts so far this season. This could be an opportunity for another team to get a recent top 10 pick on a bargain contract, or at the last best chance, the Timberwolves to salvage some sort of value from the original trade. And of course, the NBA is a business. That Tim Connelly and his staff made the move to move up. I think the expectations that the Timberwolves had for Rob, I think it's pretty safe to say at this point they have not panned out. I would love to get your thoughts and opinions, North America. Please go ahead and drop your comments in. Now, once again, if Tim does make a deal, who do you think Tim should actually make that deal for? And finally, I thought we'd go back to the Sports Illustrated article featuring Micah. Micah said, I'm a Rob Dillingham fan. I think by no means is he on the outs. It's just a matter of we're trying to win games. Bones Highland has been playing very, very well. He uses two verys again, and you're going to have growing pains. But again, he's a kid that only played 1 year in college and is trying to play point guard in the best league in the world. He's had the chance. He's had to change his game a little bit, and that's difficult. All right, I would love to get your thoughts and opinions on the Rob Dillingham situation. What do you think the Timberwolves will ultimately do at this point? Do you think Tim Connelly is going to go ahead and pull the trigger on a deal? Go ahead and drop your comments in. I want to hear from you, North America. Thanks so much for tuning in to the Timberwolves Digest. As always, I'm Dave Dabbah, wishing you all a tremendous rest of your sports viewing day.